Welcome back to the Science Corner, our regular spot here on the deep dive for, well, for anyone whose curiosity keeps pushing them to ask how and why.
A pleasure to be exploring this today.
Today, we're diving deep into something really quite remarkable about how our minds can work. It's called the method of loci.
Ah, yes, a memory technique with quite the history, but also very solid grounding in modern science.
It really is a testament to, well, human ingenuity, isn't it? That something from antiquity still clicks with how we understand memory now.
Absolutely. It's fascinating.
And I think, whether you're gearing up for a presentation or trying to learn something new, or maybe just want to remember your shopping list,
Yeah.
we all want to strengthen our memory.
The common goal.
And the method of loci seems like a really powerful way to approach that.
We're very fortunate today to have with us a Nobel laureate whose work has really pushed forward our understanding of memory science. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here and discuss this. So our mission today, for you listening, is to give you a clear, kind of insightful introduction to this method of loci. We want to look at the basic idea, the science behind why it's effective, and maybe how you could even use it yourself.
Sounds like a good plan.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. What exactly is the method of loci?
Well, at its core, it's a mnemonic strategy. It's about linking information you need to remember, linking it to specific, familiar locations, usually in a space you know well, either real or imagined.
Like building a mental map.
Precisely. A kind of memory framework, you could say. You mentally anchor each piece of information to a particular spot along a route or inside a place you know.
And there's that famous origin story, right? About an ancient Greek poet.
Yes, Simonides of Chios. That's the traditional tale. A banquet hall collapsed, tragically, and supposedly he could identify everyone who had died simply by remembering where they were sitting.
What?
Now, the actual term method of loci might be a later invention, but the story, it perfectly illustrates the principle. Using spatial context to organize memories, it taps into something very fundamental about how we process the world spatially.
So you imagine this place, this memory palace, as
Right.
it's often called. How do you actually use it then?
Okay, so the mechanics involve mentally walking through the space you've chosen, your house maybe, or your commute.
Huh?
And as you walk, you pick out distinct landmarks. These are your loci, your spots.
Right.
At each spot, you mentally place an item you want to remember. And the key is the image you create linking the item to the spot. It should be vivid, maybe interactive, even a bit strange.
Strange helps.
Oh, definitely. The more unusual, the more it tends to stick in your mind.
So like if I needed milk, bread, eggs, I could picture, I don't know, milk flooding my hallway.
Exactly. Or maybe a giant loaf of bread wearing your coat on the coat rack and eggs balancing precariously on the TV.
Okay, I get it. Very visual.
Yes. And then when you need to recall the list, you just mentally walk that route again. The weird image at each locus pops back into your mind, bringing the item with it.
Interesting. Are there other names for it?
You sometimes hear it called the journey method, especially if you're remembering things in order, following a path. Or sometimes the Roman room technique, which is often used for maybe less related items, placing them in different parts of a single imagined room or building.
It sounds quite clever, almost like a mental trick. But I assume there's some serious neuroscience explaining why it's so effective.
Oh, absolutely. This is where it gets really fascinating from a scientific view. Brain imaging, especially fMRI studies, has given us huge insights. There was a particularly important study, you might know it, on durable memories and efficient neural coding using this method.
What did that study find?
Well, researchers looked at memory athletes, people who are experts at this, and compared them to control groups. They also tracked brain changes as novices learned the technique.
What happened in the brain?
What's really striking is that during both encoding, that's putting the information in, and retrieval, the memory athletes and the trained group showed less activation in certain brain areas.
Less activation. That sounds counterintuitive.
It does, doesn't it? But the areas showing decreased activity included the lateral prefrontal cortex that's involved in sort of executive control and working memory,
Right.
and also the parahippocampal and retrosplenial cortices.
Ah, those sound like the spatial processing parts of the brain.
Exactly right. The parahippocampal cortex is key for processing scenes, environments, and the retrosplenial cortex is crucial for navigation and also episodic memory, our memory for events tied to time and place.
So less activation means, What?
It suggests what we call neural efficiency because the method taps into these existing powerful spatial memory systems. The brain, with practice, gets better, more streamlined at using these pathways. It doesn't have to work quite as hard, activate as much, compared to trying to memorize things without this kind of structure.
Like taking a well-trodden path instead of hacking through the jungle?
That's a great analogy, yes. It becomes a more efficient mental journey.
That's really interesting. So using this structure makes the brain work less in a way.
In certain key areas, yes, and there's more. The same study found increased connectivity, stronger links between the hippocampus.
The memory formation hub.
Precisely. Increased coupling between the hippocampus and the neocortex during rest periods after the memory task. And this connection is vital for memory consolidation, for making memory stable over the long term.
Ah, consolidation, making it stick.
Exactly. And this increased coupling was stronger for memories formed using the method of loci, especially the ones that proved more durable. So the technique seems to actively help transfer information into long-term storage.
So it's not just about the quirky images, it's about engaging these deep brain systems for space and memory building.
That's the core idea. It cleverly hijacks our natural, evolutionarily honed skills in visuospatial processing. We're generally very good at remembering places and visual details.
Makes sense.
So by turning abstract stuff, names, numbers, ideas, into spatial and visual things, we're sort of piggybacking onto this really robust system.
And the bizarre imagery.
That likely helps by increasing novelty. Novel things tend to grab our attention and can trigger neuromodulators, brain chemicals that basically signal, this is important, remember this, which strengthens the memory trace. There's also this idea of long-term working memory, that experts might actually be able to hold more information accessible, kind of extending working memory capacity into long-term stores via this method.
This is all incredibly fascinating. Okay, so for listeners thinking, right, I want to try this, what are the actual practical steps? How do you build your own memory palace?
No, the good news is it's quite adaptable. You mentioned lists, but it works for concepts, historical sequences, speech points, pretty much anything you can break down. Resources like, say, Coursera often lay out the steps clearly.
Can you give us the quick version?
Sure. First step, know exactly what you want to memorize. Break it down into smaller pieces. Second, choose your palace. A familiar place. Your house is classic, maybe your office, a walk you take often, somewhere you can easily visualize and mentally navigate.
Got it. Familiar space.
Third, plan a specific route through that space. Define a series of distinct landmarks or loci along that route in order. The front door, the coat rack, the kitchen counter, the sofa. Make sure they're unique spots.
A clear path.
Fourth, this is the core part. Mentally place each piece of information at one of your chosen locations. Use those vivid, interactive, maybe slightly weird images we talked about to link the info to the spot. Really engage your imagination.
Make it memorable.
Exactly. And finally, fifth, and this is crucial, revisit your palace regularly in your mind. Walk the route, see the images, recall the information. Repetition consolidates the memory. Spaced repetition, doing it at increasing intervals, works particularly well.
Right, practice makes perfect, even for mental palaces. It really is like creating a personalized internal filing system.
That's a good way to think about it.
And this isn't just some historical footnote or a self-help trick, is it? I mean, people use this competitively at a high level.
Oh, absolutely. Modern memory competitions like the World Memory Championship, the competitors rely heavily on the method of loci. They memorize hundreds, thousands of digits, shuffled decks of cards, long lists of words, often in minutes.
It's incredible. How?
They've often spent ages building and practicing navigating incredibly complex memory palaces, sometimes with thousands of loci.
Wow. And beyond those extreme cases, you mentioned studies showing it works well in, say, education.
Yes, that meta-analysis, the effectiveness of the loci method, it compiled results from many studies. It found solid evidence that it really does help improve recall in educational settings for students learning various subjects.
That's really positive news for learners.
Yeah.
Are there any downsides? Or times it might not work so well?
Well, like any technique, it's not a magic bullet for everyone. Some sources, like the Learning in the Brain blog, point out that individual differences matter, specifically your natural visuospatial ability.
Ah, so if you're not great at visualizing things.
You might find it more challenging, yes.
Yeah.
It might take more effort to create and navigate the palace effectively. It's important for educators and for individuals trying it to recognize this. If someone genuinely struggles with it, forcing it might not be helpful. Other memory strategies might be a better fit for them.
That's a fair point. Different strokes for different folks, even with brain techniques. Any other interesting uses people have found for it?
There are some intriguing applications being explored. For instance, in therapy, helping people with depression build, like a positive memory palace to access and reinforce good memories more easily.
That's fascinating.
And with technology, people are looking at virtual reality. Imagine creating incredibly detailed, immersive memory palaces in VR. That could really enhance the technique. Plus, exploring how adding other senses like balance, body position, proprioception within these virtual or real spaces might boost memory even further.
So the method itself might continue to evolve. Now, you touched on this earlier, the history. You said method of loci might not have been the exact ancient term.
That's right, a point worth noting for historical nuance. The underlying idea was definitely there in antiquity, central to what they called the art of memory. But ancient texts like the Rhetorica ad Herennium often described using spatial locations as part of a broader set of techniques.
So it wasn't just the where, but also the what and how you pictured it.
Exactly. They stressed combining the spatial structure with really rich, detailed, maybe emotionally charged imagery, using multiple senses in your imagination.
Makes sense.
And they didn't just use real places, they also talked about constructing purely imaginary palaces, houses, even whole cities to organize vast amounts of knowledge, creating different sections for different topics, more setup, but powerful for long-term organization.
It's amazing how sophisticated it was.
It is. And it's funny how echoes remain in our language. When we say in the first place or secondly, we're using that spatial ordering idea, aren't we?
Huh? I never thought of that. That's true.
And it's still used today, for instance, in learning languages. Associating new words with specific locations in a palace can be very effective.
It's just remarkable how this ancient idea holds up so well against modern neuroscience. Okay, so if we were to boil it all down, what's the main takeaway for our listeners?
I think the key thing is that the method of loci isn't just folklore. It's a genuinely powerful, scientifically validated technique that uses our brain's natural strengths in spatial thinking to dramatically boost memory.
By linking information to places.
Yes, creating that structured associative system for encoding and, crucially, for retrieving information later.
And it's something practical that people listening can actually explore and try out for themselves, whether it's for study, work, or just, remembering where they parked the car.
Absolutely. It encourages a more active, imaginative engagement with memory, which is generally much more effective than just passive repetition.
Right. And that leads us nicely into a final thought for you to ponder. In this digital world we live in, where information often feels so abstract, so detached from physical space, how might these ancient principles of spatial memory find new life? Could things like virtual reality or augmented reality actually allow us to build memory palaces more powerful than Simonides could ever have imagined? Could technology, paradoxically, help us reconnect with this very human, very spatial way of remembering?
That's a really provocative question. How our interaction with digital spaces might reshape or enhance these fundamental cognitive tools.
Something to think about. We really encourage you to reflect on how visualization and spatial thinking play a role in your own memory. And if we've piqued your interest, do look into the research we mentioned or explore other mnemonic techniques. Thank you so much for joining us today in the Science Corner.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure discussing it.